Alrighty, let's go ahead and let's try this one again. I know that for you guys, it's the first time that I'm here. I've been streaming for approximately like 25 minutes without noticing that the stream was not going properly. But there you go. We're good, and it looks like people are starting to gather. Hello everybody. It's been quite a while since I did the last stream for anything, but it looks like my streaming capabilities are now back fully online, so expect to see streams coming back up at least one every Friday. I'm gonna try to keep up at least with that one. But yeah, it has been quite a while. I welcome all of you. I'm really happy to be able to stream again, and I'm hoping that the stream does not have any more issues. From my side, it looks like most of everything is looking properly. I don't think we're having any issues when it comes to connection or anything of the sort. Let's hope that that remains that way. It's a pretty big oof, but it's whatever. We're here, and things are pretty much back to a position where I'm comfortable doing a lot of things, and I expect to be putting a bit more content from now on. Hopefully I'll be able to do it as fast as possible. Looks like everybody's gathering here. Good day, Red. Let's go ahead and let's go right into it, shall I? Mic sounds good? Perfect. That was my biggest issue at the moment. I do think it might be a bit too loud. Do tell me if it goes a bit too loud. I can always lower the volume a little bit. Do you have a new mic? The quality seems way better than I remember. That is mostly because I did actually spend quite a lot of time working on a lot of the things when it comes to back-end. My mic is the exact same. I just have like 15 different programs that are constantly modifying it and getting rid of things like background static as well as other noise gates and stuff that I have set up. So it should sound a lot better, and hopefully it'll remain that way. Continuation of the Pokemon run, I do want to do that. Unfortunately, I lost the save, so we're probably going to have to start again, which is kind of unfortunate, but it happens. When it comes to a couple things that I do want to do, I want to continue the Arc series because I'm really interested in Arc. I want to do a continuation of the Pokemon run, and one of the things that I want to try to do is Subnautica. I know that Subnautica is going to be coming out, the Below Zero, I think tomorrow, and I really want to try to stream that for a bit. So we'll see what happens. Now that my streaming capabilities are back on, I'm going to try to do a couple more things when it comes to that. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I did spend a lot of time fine-tuning it. I hope it sounds pretty good, and I expect to increase the quality of a lot of things like that. I think some of you noticed, but I did actually get a new outro that I've been working on for a little bit. The little one with Mona looking at the bear and bunny. I finally decided to make it, and now things are starting to set up. So things are going to be looking a little bit more. Alrighty then, with that out of the way, let me go ahead and set this up, which got deleted while I was doing stuff, but we're going to be talking about, today we're going to be talking about Eula, we're going to be talking about the Spiral Abyss, and we're going to be talking about the changes that are coming to 1.6 when it comes to reactions. I kind of want to do Below Zero first. I've already played a couple times through Subnautica, and if I do Subnautica again, I still remember a lot of the things, so it probably won't be as genuine. I'll probably do regular Subnautica once I've forgotten a lot of the details. You're too scared of the ocean to play by yourself. I know a lot of people are very scared of the ocean. I don't think I've had that problem for a while. Ever since I played Subnautica, it hasn't really been that big of an issue. I really love Subnautica. I'm excited to play it. We'll have to see when I'll be able to play it, but for that, it'll probably take a bit. I get sidetracked way too often, so let's just get straight into it, shall we? Today we're going to be talking about Eula, we're going to be talking about the Spiral Abyss, the Spiral Abuse as I've been calling it, and the 1.6 reaction changes, the things that we know are going to come, and a bit of speculation that we can make based on some leaks. When it comes to the starting topic, today we're going to be talking primarily about, right now we're going to be talking primarily about Eula. Eula is Eula is quite an interesting character, if I'm being honest. I think she's probably going to be the best physical DPS character that we have at the moment. Her scaling, based on what we have seen from leaks and based on what we have seen from everything that miHoYo has posted about Eula, she seems to have a lot of the tools necessary to put her up in the physical DPS department from other characters we have so far. Based on some of the initial math that I did with the stats that we have right now, her scaling from just normal attacks by themselves are already the highest out of every single character in the game. This is before we apply a lot of the things that boost a lot of the physical characters to the mix. Eula is gonna be very, very insane, if nothing else, because of her scaling. So we're gonna be talking about that. Let me just go ahead and just 1 second. Making sure that the text can actually be seen. And there we go. Eula. Eula. Eula, as I mentioned, is going to be primarily a physical DPS character. I do think that she has some potential to be on the support role, however, that potential is likely to be outshined by just how much damage she can do in the physical department. And this is probably going to be where she fits the most. If we take a look at her abilities, Eula has... First of all, she actually has a unique attack chain that's very different to what we see from a lot of Claymore users. She follows a 5-hit attack chain that's similar to what we see from 5-star characters that are Claymore users, but her 3rd and 5th hit actually attack twice, which for Claymore users, that's not really that big of a deal, but for Eula, this is actually pretty massive. Mainly because it synergizes really well with a lot of her abilities, and it gives her a lot of different animation cancels that you can do to attack a bit faster than what other characters can accomplish. The scaling that these attacks have is actually on the very, very high end. If you combine the scaling that Eula has, she almost doubles Razor, and Razor almost doubles every other Claymore user. She has that much scaling based on just her stats alone. It's kind of insane. Red, do you like Eula? You wonder if she'll be a DPS on the short term or a long term? That's one of the things that we're going to be talking about Eula. I think she's probably going to be insanely good, and the simple fact that she has one of the few physical DPS bursts is going to leave her as a very interesting choice for special Abyss floors. When it comes to how useful she's going to be as a DPS though, I don't think she's going to be DPS relevant forever. I do think she's going to be DPS consistent, to the point where she won't really fall that far behind of other options, just because of how much damage she does. She does an insane amount of damage, and she has access to an insane amount of buffs, which we'll talk about in a second. But I do expect these buffs to fall off as the game moves further into more elemental damage, more reaction damage to be specific. I do think Eula is going to lose out on a lot of those elemental damage department, mainly because she has a very limited amount of things that she can actually apply with this. For one, she wants to apply Superconduct as far as possible, but Superconduct is horrible for extra damage. It's really good for Protection Tread, which does affect Eula quite a bit, and combined with other characters like Xin Yan, can actually accomplish some very, very impressive damage combos. That are going to be insanely consistent against pretty much any enemy that you can think of. I don't think she's going to be the highest in any one category, but she's going to be high enough in most categories to the point where she's probably going to remain a consistent choice for a lot of things. The one thing that's gonna hold Eula back, which is the same thing that holds a lot of physical DPS back, is the fact that elemental shields are becoming so prevalent. And, well, when it comes to this, Eula's probably gonna be the one that's the least affected because her elemental skill has such a low cooldown. The elemental skill cooldown is about 4 seconds, which is around the same as Bennett. Bennett can reduce his cooldown up to 2 seconds. Eula can't. But still, when it comes to characters that have high amounts of elemental damage, of consistent elemental damage, since the number doesn't actually matter, the only thing that matters is that you do elemental damage, she is gonna be there. I don't think she's gonna be the best. When it comes to Eula, I expect her to be strong. I don't expect her to be overwhelming. I just expect her to be a good choice and probably a counter pick against specific enemies. Mainly looking at things like Fatui mages, Fatui agents, as well as the treasure hoarders, both of which have damage negatives against physical damage. You do more damage against them if you're hitting them with physical. So she's probably going to be used to speedrun floors that have a high quantity of these. I do expect that to be like the main driving force of what people are going to be using Eula for. Because again, she's very consistent when it comes to damage department. Her burst is really powerful. She has a lot of consistent aspect on the physical front. And while not being able to use elemental damage is a bit of a problem, or not being able to take advantage of it, her physical damage is just insane. It really is very crazy. You don't like the fact that she has crit damage level stats? Yeah, pretty much every single character so far has had just give them crit damage, and that kind of solves a lot of the issues, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Crit damage is one of the better stats to get, since it affects everything. It's not just a single part of the kit, it's the entire kit. And it does kind of put a hamper on other characters that don't have it, just because of how oppressive it really is. Crit in Genshin is pretty much the stat that matters the absolute most, second only to damage bonuses. And it's very hard to not like it when characters have crit. She does have that, so we can see what. So it's gonna be something we can take advantage of. When it comes to the future of Genshin, as you mentioned, Red, we really don't know what's going to be the case. From what we can tell, it does look like elemental reactions are going to be the new way of playing a lot of the top tier Genshin Abyss floors, I guess you could say it. We're going to have to see. And we're definitely going to be talking about that once we get to the 1.6 elemental changes, the ones that we do know. Is Eula going to get affected by all of this? She probably will. Mainly because she doesn't really fit into a lot of the elemental characters. That's kind of the problem with a lot of cryo users, where they have a lot of damage and they have a lot of potential, but they have to sacrifice elemental reactions in most cases. The only one they can do properly is Smelt, and the characters that we have right now that enable that sort of setup are very difficult, and in most cases are not really worth that setup. Not the case for everything. I know that a lot of people are doing a Rosaria Xiangling combo, which is actually really effective when it comes to melt. But it's also very energy intensive, so unless you have insane amounts of investment, you're not going to be seeing that one too often. When it comes to... Yes, and Damien, you mentioned a very important fact. Eula does have one very glaring issue at the moment when it comes to energy requirement. Her energy requirement is absolutely horrendous. From what we can tell right now, she only gets one energy orb for every casting of her elemental skill, which is horrendous. I know that her hold version gives 2, but the hold version has a 10-second cooldown. Her energy is absolutely horrendous. It is one of the things that's going to hold Eula back the most. However, her normal attacks are so consistent in that regard that you're still not going to feel it as much. When it comes to choosing other options, however, that is where Eula is going to be facing a lot of issues. She does actually have quite a bit of potential when it comes to being a melt physical damage hybrid, mainly because the scaling of her abilities is just really, really good, and because of the existence of Xinyan. Xinyan can enable a lot of damage when it comes to Eula, especially when both of their bursts are active, but they are very energy hungry. That's going to be one of the biggest issues that I can see with Eula. There's probably going to be players going for a Cryo Eula build just because of how much damage the skills actually have. I don't think that's going to be the best way of using Eula. Her entire point is definitely going to be centered on the physical aspect. The physical aspect is just the one that you can boost the most. Energy is going to be her biggest issue. Energy is going to be her biggest issue. At the moment, we don't know if Eula is going to get any more changes, but the 80 energy cost of Glacial Illumination is going to be pretty hefty. I'm hoping they'll decrease it to 60, but I'm not hoping too much. When it comes to the strengths of Eula, before we keep on talking about the weaknesses, I kind of want to talk about both. She's definitely going to be very, very powerful in the physical department. As I mentioned, just her scaling alone looks insanely high. She has really, really high scaling compared to pretty much every other character in the game. She has almost double Razor's scaling, and Razor already has almost double the scaling of everybody else. So I do expect her to be really consistent in that department. Her elemental skill, Ice Tide Vortex, which I don't think we've talked about, is actually one of the stronger elemental skills. As I did mention earlier, though, it has that glaring weakness of having horrible energy generation. But when it comes to it, it has a 4-second cooldown, which means that you can apply the Cryo element fairly consistently for not only superconduct setups, but other setups, including things like the Snow-Tombed Star Silver, which is probably going to be the weapon that most Eula users are going to be going for, since it provides not only the icicle drop whenever you attack with it, but it also gives physical damage bonus as a main stat, and it's a pretty decent amount. I believe that at max rank it's like 34% or something like that. So I do expect that one to be one of her better weapons. That one, as well as a Black Glyph Slasher, and maybe even the Skyward Pride if you're going for a more burst-heavy build. The physical damage, yes, as you mentioned, that the physical damage does so much damage. We're gonna get to it in just a second, but it does also have a cryo element attached to it. The scaling on Eula's burst by itself is kind of insane if you actually look at it. Even at level 1, it's already doing so much because of this separation. At level 1, it's already doing more damage than most other skills in the game. When you combine both of the scalings, and when you take into account the scaling for the stacks, Eula's burst is insane. It's probably the highest damage burst that we have. Well, excluding Xingqiu. Xingqiu is just crazy. But it might even get to that point. Because if I remember correctly, I think the limit for stacks is about 30. Realistically, you're only going to be able to get somewhere around 14 at most. But even that, at level 6, that's 1,400 damage extra. Plus the base scaling, which is another 500%. So it's 2,000% physical scaling. Which can get pretty crazy pretty quickly. Because as one of the things about Eula is that if you combine her elemental skill alongside something like Superconduct, if you combine both of those when they're at max rank, that's 60% physical reduction, physical resistance reduction. And this is pretty massive. 60% is an insane number, especially taking into consideration there are already some enemies that have a minus 50% resistance to physical damage. Especially against those enemies, Eula is going to be insane. So I do expect her to, at a bare minimum, have a utility as a counter option for very specific enemies. Now, those are kind of some of the strengths that Eula has. She honestly does have a pretty strong melt-centered composition when paired with Xinyan. Her burst is absolutely insane, and the normal attack scaling that she has is also on the crazy side. She does come with a lot of negatives, however. As Dimian mentioned earlier, her energy generation is garbage. It's just horrendous. If you're gonna want to run Eula, you're gonna need energy recharge in insane amounts, and you're probably gonna need an energy battery, which when it comes to cryo, we don't really have that many good energy batteries for cryo in particular. I think the best one that we have is Diona, and that requires you to have a sacrificial bow in order to use that properly. It's in a similar fashion to what we see from Xingqiu, although slightly different. Xingqiu provides more damage, Diona provides more support. I don't think she's gonna be as good as other characters we've seen so far. She's not gonna be in Ganyu levels, she's not gonna be in Hu Tao levels, but I don't think she's gonna be weak either. I think her biggest strength is gonna be her consistency. When it comes to physical damage, the fact that she can do 60% reduction means that pretty much against most enemies, even Ruin Guards, she is going to be doing a lot of her damage without many issues. I do think that her biggest weakness is going to be shields, as well as the fact that she needs a lot of energy. The 80 energy requirement on Glacial Illumination is just very heavy. I do hope that when she releases, they decrease down to around 60. Even at 60, it's probably a bit too much. But that's my hope. Right now, we don't know what the total energy is going to be. What we are seeing is 80. We'll have to wait until the full release to have a final determination of Eula. They might do changes like increase the energy generation. They might even decrease the energy cost. We just don't know so far. But we can expect that to be one of the main issues when it comes to Eula. Energy generation, as well as shields. Against shields, though, she does have a couple of advantages that other physical characters really don't have that much. Her elemental skill is a very, very low cooldown. So as a character that does cryo damage, Eula does have some of the fastest cryo applications with elemental skills. It's probably not going to be enough to offset the negative that she's going to have versus shielded enemies, but it is something that helps her a little bit. I do think she's going to struggle a lot when it comes to Abyss, but I do think that versus bosses in particular, Eula is probably going to be one of the better choices for one-shotting bosses, just because of how much damage Glacial Illumination does. I can already see just people going with Eula, hitting the boss, switching to Fischl, switching into Xinyan, activating Xinyan's burst, going into Glacial Illumination, and just one-shotting bosses. That is something that I expect to see very quickly once people get Eula on their hands. In terms of power levels, putting her with Xiao is probably a fair assessment in Demian. I do think that's probably gonna be something that we can see. Oh yeah, you make a good point. Venti would actually help her quite a bit when it comes to the cryo damage. I just don't think Venti pairs that well with her. Granted, it does gather enemies for Glacial Illumination strikes, so that's something. Overall, I do think she's going to be strong. If you pull her, she's definitely something that you want to build. Do I think you should go specifically for her? That one's a bit difficult. I think if you have a Xinyan that's at C2, and you already have a weapon that fits Eula really well, I'm thinking something like the Snow Tomb Star Silver, the Skyward Pride, or the Black Cliff Slasher, and you are lacking on the physical damage department, meaning you don't have a Crescent Pike for whatever reason, or you're using your Shanling for something else, Eula's probably not that bad of a pick. But these are very specific scenarios where it's going to depend a lot on what you have available. Unlike Zhongli, unlike a character like Klee, unlike a character like Venti, she's not going to be a character that's going to fit into every team. She's going to be good. That I know for a fact. I think, Endymion, you mentioned Xiao levels of power. That feels fairly accurate. I do feel that she's going to be on that same regard, where she's going to have very strong moments against very specific enemies, and then she's going to fall off against shielded enemies. That feels fairly accurate. They do all stack together, yes, Pixelist. Zhongli Shred plus Xingyan Shred plus Superconduct Shred plus Eula Shred, they all stack. As far as we're concerned, they all stack. And I do expect that people are going to do that, if I'm being honest. They're probably going to be running Eula as a burst supporter with like Official and Zhongli. That's one of the teams that I do expect. It's going to be funny to see. I don't think it's going to be the most efficient. Eula, when it comes to teammates, probably a good idea to talk about those. I do expect that the one teammate that's going to be glued to Eula is going to be Xingyan. Xingyan is just a character that has been wanting to support individuals for the longest time. She is probably one of the crazier supports that we have out there when she gets to C2, but she hasn't had a character that benefits from Xingyan until now. Eula is that character. Eula's elemental skill scaling is actually pretty high, really good for melt setups when it comes to using Ice Tide Vortex. Even the press version has fairly high scaling. The burst has pretty decent scaling when it comes to the ice part, and Ice Tide Vortex, the held version, it does really massive damage. I'm talking Ganyu levels of damage here. So yeah, melt setups for Eula are going to be very strong, and since Eula mostly centers on crit damage, because a lot of the things that she has set up already benefit from crit, we are going to see a lot of very powerful hits from Eula. Cryo or physical, the physical one will definitely do you better because the scaling on Glacial Illumination is just insane, as well as the regular scaling of her normal attacks. Her normal attacks are just crazy, but taking advantage of the melt setup is definitely going to be one of the things that's going to push Eula above the rest. So yeah, if you have Eula, you 100% want to C2 Xingyan. C2 Xingyan enables so much for her that very few other characters do. You're also going to be wanting a Superconduct character that can enable Superconduct. The two that matter the most are probably Vido and Fischl, although if I'm being honest, neither of them are a perfect fit for Eula. I think Eula is still waiting for another character that can enable Superconduct without messing up her melt setups. We don't really have a character that does that at the moment, so which one should you use? Use the one that you like the most, if I'm being honest. I personally prefer Vido for the moment, just because it allows me to Superconduct whenever I want to, where Fischl might at some point interact with Xingyan in the wrong manner, and I'm going to be losing a lot on my melt setups. Hence why I prefer Vido in this particular scenario. Eula is probably waiting for a character like Barbara, but for Electro. Once we get that, Eula might be a bit better. Barbara might actually be a bit too much. Someone like Diona. Diona for Electro. That's what Eula is waiting for at the moment. We'll see what we get. For now, I would probably recommend Vido. Yes, Risky, that is something important. Once resistance gets reduced to 0, the effect gets halved. So if you apply 100% shred against an enemy that has 0 resistances, you're getting a 50% damage bonus. But the important part about this damage bonus is that this one is a multiplicative bonus because it appears on the formula for the defense. I plan on doing a video explaining a lot of the explaining the Genshin formula. That's probably going to take a long time, though. But the important part right now is that Lisa might actually be better than those two in this case. I'm being honest, she might. She might actually be better than Bido and Fischl. But yeah, when it comes to the damage formula, I do plan on explaining that at some point or another. It's probably going to take me a while to get that ready, though. Lisa might legitimately be a good choice here. I just don't know. I think what Eula needs from an Electro support, she needs an Electro support that does a single hit with their elemental skill, and a single hit for the burst. That's what Eula needs at the moment. and either the burst or the elemental skill have to be able to give a bonus to Eula. Preferably a shield, preferably, but it could realistically be something else. Eula right now is waiting for a character that doesn't exist for her electro support. Her pyro support is 100% going to be Xinyan. For the electro support, use what you have. Lisa might unironically be the best option. Especially if you have the defense reduction. Razor with a noblesse set, that would be funny. That would be really funny, as you have a Razor support. I mean, he does have defense reduction. If you have the, what is it, C1, C4? I don't remember Razor off the top of my head. But yeah, that's what I do expect for Eula. I expect Xinyan to be her best support. Electro support, she doesn't really have one at the moment. And she's probably going to pair well with just other generic supports that don't influence her that much. The so-called trinity of supports that I've been mentioning so far. Bennett, Albedo, Zhongli. As far as other replacements for that, Diona might be one of the better energy batteries if you have access to that. If you have access to the sacrificial bow variant. Other characters that I can think of off the top of my head. I know that somebody mentioned Venti for the energy regen. That might be an option. It's pretty much just gonna be whatever you can find for her. The only one character that pairs exceptionally well with Eula at the moment is Xinyan. Pretty much everybody else has some negative that doesn't really fit too well with Eula's playstyle. Electro Archon? Hopefully. I don't know. I mean, we're expecting her to be a healer for some reason. Considering Mihoyo, it wouldn't surprise me. Razor support sounds cursed. It does sound kind of cursed, but it'd be fun. It'd be really funny. Well, it'd be really funny on the part that you don't expect Razor to be a support, but he does actually have a fairly low cooldown on the elemental skill, fairly decent energy generation, and he does have debuffs that are not exclusive to him. It's just that his burst is so centered on DPS that you wouldn't expect to see it in that regard. There's probably going to be a better option in the future. I would probably hold out on that one. For now, I think Lisa just seems like the cheapest option. Bido might be the one that gives you the most advantages, but apart from that, we're just missing out on electro supports that work well with Eula. Fischl is usually the top tier electro support that most people go for, just because Fischl is insane. But she does kind of ruin a lot of Eula's potential, mainly because Eula wants to melt so often. It's realistically the only elemental reaction that Eula has access to. Well, Super Conduct, but that one you're going to apply once and you're going to forget it exists. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do expect for Eula. And I think that's probably a good point to say. The leaks seem to say that Electro Archon is a support. Oh my god, is it gonna be a... If the Electro Archon pulls out a defibrillator and ends up being a healer, I'm going to laugh so much. I'm kinda hoping that's gonna be the case now. Oh, after guessing... Oh, really? Didn't even remember that. Razor support might be a legit option. I'm gonna have to take a look into that. Yeah, now that you mentioned that, Endymion, the Q does reset the hold version of the A, doesn't it? Razor support. That sounds weird, but it might just work. I'm gonna have to look into the math. I'm definitely gonna have to look into the math. That's probably gonna be something that I do a bit of more research once Eula actually comes out. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, it might actually work. That is so hilarious. Alright, if I keep on thinking about it, I'm not gonna continue with the stream, so I'll do that off stream. I'll do that off stream because otherwise we're not going to continue. That's kind of what I expect on Eula at the moment. Let's go ahead and let's move on to the next topic, shall we? And for the next topic, we're going to be talking about something that's been quite the problem in the community as it stands right now. We're going to be talking about the good old Spiral Abyss. Alrighty. The leaks people say that she stops time like Raiden from Honkai. Ball being a healer would be really funny. It would be the most funny thing that I've ever seen. I don't think that's going to be the case. Curious to see how Ball lands, but before we get into that one... Spiral Abyss. Spiral Abyss. Oh boy, what is there to not say about the Spiral Abyss? Look, we've all wanted the Spiral Abyss to change for the longest time. The Spiral Abyss has progressively gotten not more difficult, more annoying as time has gone in Genshin. We started out already being very annoying with the Whooper Flowers. We kept on moving forward, The Primal Geo Bishops were added. Can't talk, Jesus. The Geo Bishops were added, that made it even more annoying. We had the Ruin Hunters at some point or another. Those were extremely hard to deal with. The big ones, not the small ones. And now, we have the Abyss Heralds and the Abyss Lectors. It's been painful. And the main reason why it's been painful is not because Abyss itself has changed that much. The main problem lies with the timers, at least from my perspective. I actually think the difficulty of Abyss is in a good spot. Take care of this. The difficulty is in a good spot, not the star system. I think right now, the current system that we have to calculate how good you're doing in Abyss is the main reason why Abyss feels so dreadful at the moment. Right now, we are playing with a timer system that rewards you based on how quickly you defeat enemies. This type of design pretty much excludes everything that does not scream DPS. And this is one of the main reasons why Abyss feels so horrible at the moment. DPS in Genshin is largely dependent on the matchup that you have against the enemy, as well as your artifacts. And artifacts in Genshin are some of the highest, most difficult thing to get to the perfect state that you will ever see. We have a limited amount of legendary artifacts that we can run. There are 4 stats out of which we have to level up 5 to 6 times depending on if you get the right stats or not. And they're all behind this random loot roll that's impossible to control. And you need the most perfect versions paired with the most perfect team combos in order to successfully beat Abyss as it stands right now. It does not feel like a challenge of skill, it feels like a challenge of luck. And I think that's the problem at the moment. Because even if you pay, if your artifacts are not good, or if your matchup is not good, you're still gonna have a really, really bad time in Abyss. Artifacts are one of the things that's holding most people down, and another one that's holding a lot of people down is character availability. The changes that Abyss has, it changes very quickly, and it's very difficult to adapt on the fly because of how many resources an individual needs in order to invest into a certain character. The important part here is you don't need to have You don't need to have characters at maximum constellations. You don't need to have like maximum refined characters. You just need to have the specific counter character that's been designed for this Abyss floor, and you need to have them leveled up. Which is the current pain. As it stands right now, the current Abyss floor, if you do not have Chongyun, Bennett, or Sheng Cho, you're gonna have hell trying to beat it at any reasonable time frame. And I think that's a problem. I think the problem right now that we're facing with Abyss is that the way that the rewards are being centered, they're not rewarding player skill, they're not rewarding player investment, they're rewarding luck. And that's kind of the problem that a lot of people are seeing at the moment. It just doesn't feel like anything that you do will help you in this regard. Even if you pay money, it won't help you. So not only is this version of Abyss alienating the free-to-play, it's also alienating the payers. This version of Abyss has to change. It's not a good version. You're pretty much you're pretty much forced to use specific characters for this Abyss, and that's just annoying. The elemental shields have always been a problem when it comes to Spiral Abyss because of how difficult it has been to counter those. Mainly because the availability of characters is difficult to acquire. Certain characters, the free characters, are not really that efficient at clearing a lot of the Abyss shields. The Abyss shields are insanely tanky and require multiple characters hitting them at the same time in order to reduce them. And since Abyss is a timed challenge, you need to have multiple of those. It has been bearable in the past, mainly because the difficulty of Abyss, at that point in time, the difficulty was getting to the point where you could enter Abyss. People were not leveled up. That has changed. People are leveled up. The difficulty of Abyss hasn't really increased that much, but the annoyance factor has. There are multiple things that have been added that just add extra time to every single run. And those things are cooked into the game, meaning that they're pretty much going to be impossible for you to get rid of them unless you have very specific counters. Some of the things that I can see from this particular Abyss, if we take into account the Abyss Heralds, they have that spinning attack where they go around and they just spin around multiple times within a short period of time. It's pretty much impossible to attack them during this time period, and they do it for a very, very long time. I'm pretty sure that I was counting, and every time they do the spin attack, they're pretty much spinning for upwards of 7 to 14 seconds. It's impossible to attack them during that period of time. You have to evade them, you have to dodge them, and it's just wasting your time. Time that you need an insane amount of in order to be able to get the 3 stars. It's just annoying. And I do think that MiHoYo is going to have a lot of problems with this. I do think their current design philosophy of the timed version of this is going to be what kills it. As I mentioned at the beginning, I don't think the difficulty is the problem. I think the difficulty is at a place where it's reasonable. It's hard enough to be able to dodge the enemies, it's hard enough to be able to do X and Y, but with enough patience and with enough tries, a lot of characters in the game should be able to do it. The problem is the time component. At least that's how I see it. Ganyu and Huta are really good against Heralds though. Yeah, but that's 2 characters, both of which are 5 stars, none of which a majority of people have answers to. It's that same problem that I'm saying where if you don't have the specific counter, you're just screwed. Which is not really that fun, is it? Because even if you do have the specific counter, then that specific counter has to be leveled, that specific counter has to have the stats maxed out, then you need to have the proper artifact sets. It's just too much randomness for what's ultimately a miserably low reward. And even if you do manage to have all of that, the experience itself is painful. This is not the version of Abyss that Genshin needs. I get it. This version of this was probably made on the fly in order for Genshin to have some sort of endgame. But MiHoYo has to see that this version of Abyss will lose them players. Not only the free kind, but even the paid kind. I don't think adding difficulty through frustration is the correct way of doing it. Yeah, as Rona mentioned, if you do have Chungyun helps a lot in order to clear the Abyss floors. If you do have him, that's probably your best bet. If I'm being honest, don't bother trying to 36 star this version of Abyss. Do as much as you're willing to do, and just accept that you're not going to get the 50 extra primal gems, and just save yourself the suffering. Trust me, I tried to 36 star this version of Abyss for a video. I'm at 35 stars. I am not capable of beating the Abyss Lector at the very end. I'm not even at 30. I'm not even at 35. I'm at 34 right now because when I was doing it, I got so frustrated because I was missing I was like 30 seconds off from beating it in 3 minutes. I just quit. I didn't even bother finishing it because it didn't help me at all. This version of Abyss is just too frustrating. Don't bother with it. Just don't. Do as much as you can. Leave the rest. Many rocks break the Abyss that way. I think this version should be floor 13 and 14 without primal gems, but with increased Bora and flex purposes. That would actually not be that bad. That would actually not be that bad. I don't think just flex purposes would probably be enough. You might have to add a bit more into it. I think dream solvents might be a good thing to put in there as a relatively good reward. Realistically, what we need is we need an item that lets you reroll stats. That's what we should have. But we'll see what ends up happening. One of the things is we just have to let MiHoYo know that this version of Abyss is absolutely annoying, and we don't want anything of this sort. Again, do be mindful to try to be as respectful as possible. I do know that a lot of the people in MiHoYo have a lot of things to deal with from the community itself. There's a lot of very toxic aspects on it, and it probably doesn't help if we just go screaming around, change everything, you suck, all of that. One of the things that I want to try to do is I want to try to gather as much information about where people are seeing their frustrations, which parts are the most annoying ones, and then what can we do to change that into a more reasonable experience. I think what you mentioned in Demon might actually be a pretty good idea. Having some of the hardest parts of the Abyss go up into like floors 13, 14, maybe even 15, and then just have those be primal gem-less. They're not part of the Abyss, they're entirely there for the challenge. That's actually not a bad idea. Let's see. Lumine, Aether, Shangli, Albedo, and DPS with Noah learning 1. Yeah, that's very expensive. Funnily enough, that is actually what I did to beat the Lectors the first time that I played. I beat them through a combination of Ningguang and Noelle. I pretty much just tanked everything. And then once I managed to get them down, I spent like 4 minutes with Diona just shooting at them with a bow. It was the most annoying thing ever. It took me like 30 seconds to get them down to the shield, and then it took me 4 minutes to just get the shield down. But yeah, when it comes to Abyss, those are kind of some of the main problems that we're seeing at the moment. Abyss is just too annoying, man. It's not hard, it's just annoying. And it's almost entirely to do with the timer. I think if they were to get rid of the timer, we would not be having discussions like this one. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, if anybody has played Destiny, the original Destiny. Nightfalls used to be a thing that a lot of people did very early on, and there used to be challenges around it about soloing the Nightfalls. Then at some point in the game, they added a timer to it, and all Nightfall content just stopped existing. People stopped doing it because it got too annoying. I kind of feel like this is the same thing that we have right now with Abyss, where the only thing that's killing it is the timer. I don't know what a timerless Abyss would look like, but I still feel like it will be more fun. Poor Xiao mains. Yeah, Xiao got really screwed on this one. So did Child. Man, coming from the person that has Child as his main DPS on the second team, let me tell you, it was very annoying. I could still use him on the third one, but on the second one I had to switch to Xiangling. Thankfully I had a Xiangling built. Yeah, Geo pretty much does counter most enemies with brute force. For the better or for the worst. Anywho, I think those are kind of the things about Abyss that I want to vent about. And if you have any recommendations about what you think would be a beneficial change to Abyss, if you can, try to put them in the Discord. I'm going to be trying to gather as much data as I can. I do plan on doing a video pretty much explaining every single thing that I find annoying about Abyss. Which reminds me, are you guys aware that in the floor with the Sisson flies, the ones that freeze you constantly, Diona cannot apply her cryo element, which makes her immune to frozen. This is the only place in the game where Diona's shield does not allow you to stop freeze, and I find that to be the most annoying thing ever. Child's cooldown was like 118 seconds, yeah. Traumaglia. It's hard and possible with Xiao. I can see it. It's just so difficult. It's not even difficult, it's just annoying. Again. But anywho, before I rant too much, I do want to change topic. We're not going to be talking about Spiral Abyss anymore. At least for now. We're probably going to have to... We're probably going to be seeing this topic come up a lot in the upcoming days. Especially since Abyss is going to reset pretty soon, and supposedly it's going to be even harder. Lovely. We're going to be talking about Abyss next week, I can already tell. But anywho, let's move over to the last topic of the day before we go over to Q&As, shall we? 1.6 Reaction changes. So, they do call it spiral abuse for a reason. It's... I don't want to talk about it right now. We're probably going to be talking about it next week. I can already see it. Cooldown simulator. Yep. You said it right there. I'm probably going to have to use that as a joke. Wish it wasn't, but I've done that joke myself. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's go over to the last topic of the night, of the day. Depends on where you are, I guess. Reaction changes, 1.6. We have official confirmation from miHoYo that they are thinking about changing the non-melt, non-vaporize reactions. This means they're thinking about changing crystallize, they're thinking about changing swirl, and every single electro reaction. Overload, superconduct, and electrocharge. When I say changing, they have said the damage department. I don't think we're going to see any massive changes. We're more than likely just going to see changes to the numbers themselves. Which, in all honesty, for reactions like overload and electrocharge, that might be enough to put them into contention of actually reasonable DPS. Electrocharge and overloaded. These are the two that are probably going to be the most affected. If you have Alchemania for Sucrose, Swirl Sucrose with Xingqiu and Fischl might legitimately become a very good DPS option. I'm not kidding here. The changes might actually make this a very effective DPS option. Especially if you have a really powerful... especially if we get a very powerful Pyro Damager at some point in the future. Pyro Nuker. So, reaction changes. Electrocharge and Overloaded. These are the two that I'm taking the most look at. Electrocharge in particular, what we have been getting from leaks so far is that MiHoYo is thinking about doubling the damage that you get from EM, from Elemental Mastery. This is probably going to be pretty massive. As it stands right now, Elemental Mastery on Electrocharge in particular is already starting to be a very viable option for characters like Child, who can pair really well with a character like Fischl and activate Electrocharge pretty much everywhere. On another note though, we also have combinations of characters like Xingqiu and aforementioned Fischl, or Vido, depending on your options, which can enable Electrocharge on a massive scale on a lot of enemies on a very consistent rate. If these changes make Electrocharge more powerful than it is, I do actually expect that we are going to see a bit of a change and a more of a focus on Electrocharge as a reaction. Why do I expect this to be the case? Well, you see, whenever you apply Electrocharge on an enemy, the Electro and the Hydro element remain on that enemy, which means that if you have a Pyro character that uses a Pyro ability on said enemy, you can actually trigger Overloaded, Electrocharge, and Vaporize on a single hit. In addition to this, Swirl and Crystallize can also be applied in this hit, which means that it is possible right now, without any changes happening, to make 4 reactions in 1 second. That being Electrocharge, Overloaded, Vaporize, and either Crystallize or Swirl. This is probably gonna be one of the new metas that we can expect in the future if the changes to EM are reasonable enough. EM might legitimately become a pretty decent way of increasing your damage in the future. And I'm interested to see what we're going to be seeing for this. Just as a heads up, I'm expecting teams of Xingqiu and Fischl to be pretty much everywhere. As far as which team I expect to gain a lot of popularity, there was a team in the past that I mentioned that was Albedo and the Boys, which included Bennett, Xingqiu, Albedo, and Chongyun. I expect that exact same team to gain a lot of popularity, with Chongyun being replaced by Fischl. I think that's probably something that we're going to be seeing in the future. And it's likely going to be very effective, if I'm being honest. So let's see. Let's see what people are saying. Kachin, Kazuha, Albedo, Sucrose, and Tartaglia. They're probably going to be characters that are going to benefit a lot from this buff. Kazuha in particular, I want to talk a lot about that character. I'm going to be the first one to say it on record. I don't think Kazuha is going to be strong. I think as he stands right now, he's going to be outclassed by quite a lot of characters. But that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to wait a little bit more, because we don't know everything about Kazuha. We only know that he exists, and well, all of his animations and all of his attack numbers. We know a lot about Kazuha, but for MiHoYo's sake, we're not going to tell them that. Can we clone Xingqiu, please? Yes, I know, right? We need more Hydro characters. Right now, the only 2 Hydro characters that are viable as a lot of DPS supports are pretty much Mona and Xingqiu. And Xingqiu is just the easiest one to use. You can use Barbara for this point, and she's actually fairly effective in that regard. It's just that Barbara's main problem right now is the freeze problem, where she can freeze herself, which is very annoying. And she also has a pretty massive energy problem, which is something that I do want to talk about as well, since Chi-Chi also has that issue. I have a lot of things planned, and I just don't have the time nor the energy to do them. But I do plan on having another sort of series where we go talking about characters that need buffs, and what buffs I would recommend, or I would like to see. And I do want to do a damage in depth for Genshin. Those are probably going to be in the future. Kazuha right now, he looks... I'm gonna be honest, he just looks like a worse Sucrose. Um, his main elemental skill, it looks insanely cool. Like the entire design of the character is super well done. The character has an amazing design. It's just the skills are horrendous. They're horrible. They do nothing. It's it's sad, really. It's really sad. But I plan on talking a bit more about Kazuha probably in the upcoming weeks. I imagine that we're going to be seeing the first actual videos about Kazuha from MiHoYo probably on the next livestream. So once that hits down, I'll probably make a video about Kazuha. I'm hoping that we get a couple changes. We'll see what ends up happening. As it stands right now, with what we know about Kazuha, he looks insanely weak unless you have the C2. With the C2, he's a lot more variable, and he actually has a pretty decent support. He has a pretty decent argument for support. Without the C2, though, I just don't see it. His CC is pathetic. His damage is not ideal. He does actually have a very interesting attack chain that can work really, really well with the Skyward Blade. I believe that's the name. Which is definitely something that we can take a look into. But God, even with that one, I just don't see why you would use him over literally any other Anemo character. He feels insanely weak. I'm talking Traveler levels weak. Anemo Traveler. But yeah, that's for Kazuha. A couple other things that, when it comes to reactions, I do expect the Electric Charge combo to pick up a lot of popularity. We're probably going to be seeing characters like Bennett rise up in the DPS department. Bennett is already a pretty powerful DPS on his own regard. With these changes, I do actually expect him to go even higher. EM changes that can benefit him, who already wants to vaporize a lot of his hits, to be able to add Electrocharge and overload it to that mix. Even if you decrease the damage of his vaporize hits by a small amount, being able to have that in a consistent manner is probably going to be better in the long run. Kazuha looks like pre-buff Albedo. He has no clue what he wants to be or how he wants to be built. He has great numbers, but it makes his passives useless, and full EM Kazuha will be doing crap for damage. Pretty much my thoughts exactly. I think Thundering Fury DPS Bennett, I can see that happening. If I'm being honest, we're more likely to see just the Witch's set, because Witch's set also increases the damage of Overloaded, as well as Vaporize, so it's likely going to end up doing more damage. I'll have to take a look into that. I'm pretty sure it'll do more damage, but I'll double check the numbers just in case once we actually have them. Overloaded and Electrocharge is probably going to become a very powerful combo that we're going to be seeing going forward. As it stands right now, Overloaded and Electrocharge I'm pretty sure has some damage multiplier of like 4.1 or 4.2, I think, once you take into account both ticks, and Overloaded has like a 3.6. If we can see these multipliers doubled, that's a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. I'm interested to see. Depending on what we get, we're probably going to see a lot more characters going to be getting a little bit of love. I'm also sure that they mentioned they were going to do something to crystallize. I think they're planning on increasing the shield capacity, but I'm also hearing rumors that they're planning on doing something else. So until those are confirmed, I'm not even going to bother talking about crystallize. Good luck farming EM Venereer sets on Kazuha. Oh god, Kazuha is just... He's a character. I do not recommend that you roll for him. In his current state, he's just not good. He might get the Zhongli treatment in the future. I'm not entirely sure about that one. I would just play it safe. If you want Kazuha, you might want to consider getting him on the rerun rather than on his release. That might honestly be the better option. Elemental Mastery is the rarest stat to get on artifacts, and the current version of Kazuha not only wants you to have the C6 in order to take advantage of that, but he also wants you to have like 700 Elemental Mastery. in order to be useful. It's not good. It is not good. Thundering Fury Bennett. Thundering Fury Bennett is probably going to be... It's not a bad idea, in all honesty. If you're doing the Electrocharge version of that one in particular, having the extra resistances is not only going to help quite a lot against the base Electors, as you mentioned. It's also just going to be really good. Overloaded, Vaporize, in addition to Electrocharge. It's a really good combo. You already have a full EM Viridescent Sucrose. If I'm being honest, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Get that Sucrose to Alchemania and just use Sucrose as a main DPS. Instead of getting Kazuha. You'll do better. Which is sad, but it's true. Go with Alchemania Sucrose, grab Xingqiu, grab Fischl, just watch everything melt. It's gonna be hilarious. But yeah, those are pretty much the things that I want to talk about with regards to the 1.6 changes. I definitely want to keep an eye out on this one. I think just the fact that we're going to be getting a buff will probably push Electrocharge overloaded compositions further up. And one of the things that I do want to mention about the particular teams that we've been talking so far, the combination of Bennett, Xingqiu, and Fischl, I think these three are probably going to become one of the more consistent trios that we're going to be seeing when it comes to DPS potential. I also just pulled John Fei, and I went ahead and I tested this particular combo on her, and it also works. You can also pull this off with Yan Fei. However, if you're using Yan Fei, you will need to have Fischl at C6, which is a very big if. So, yeah. If you want to try that one out, if you have the resources, I expect that one to be a very, very powerful combo going forward. A Xingqiu, Yanfei, Fischl combination that aims to triple proc elemental reactions. That's probably something that we're going to see a lot in the future. And depending on what happens, the EM that Albedo does provide might actually be very, very relevant in these sort of teams. Did you get Zhongli too? No, I have not. I have not gotten Zhongli. Here's the thing though, I'm at 69 on my pity. And I have a sneaking suspicion that if I pull again, I'm gonna get a 5-star. Just something is telling me. I'm not sure if I should keep on pulling or not. I'm thinking about just skipping, but at the same time, this is a Noel banner. So I do kind of want to get as many Noels as I can. When it comes to what I want, this is probably a good time to switch over to Q&As. So let me just do that really quickly. There we go. Yes, I see. You can't pull for Yanfei. You're already at 50. Yeah, I think you're probably better if you're only gonna get the C1 for Zhongli. Risking it is probably not the correct choice. Yanfei is very strong. Her innate strength comes more just from her element, if I'm being honest, from the fact that she has a very long range and her damage potential is pretty high, as I mentioned in my video. She does require a lot of assistance to get to that damage potential. She's just a really, really good character to have in Hold, but I don't think she's worth wasting your pity. We are looking to get some fairly strong characters in the future. I don't think Kazuha is going to be one of those. Ayaka might, depending on how some of the changes have gone through. I haven't taken a look at Ayaka in quite a while. Probably going to take a look at that one sometime in the future. The ones that I'm more excited about for the future, I heard rumors. Well, Ball, of course. I'm probably going to pull for Ball because waifu. I'm not even going to lie. That is the only reason. I do not need an electro character. But I'm probably going to try to wait for Ball. see what she brings to the table. And I know that there is a Pyro Archer that's supposed to come out with Inazuma as well. And I'm hoping that the Pyro Archer will be a support, because I am in desperate need of a support Pyro character. A 100 pulls and only one Yanfei. My god, that is sad. That seems to be a lot of the cases for Yanfei this time around, doesn't it? I keep on hearing that that a lot of people are just not getting her. I'm actually really lucky in that regard. Not only did I get Yanfei on my main account, I actually went into my secondary account, the one where I have Klee, and I pulled her on the first pull. Yeah. They're never going to buff her because they want their 5-star sell. Sadly. I don't even know why we still keep on hope about the Amber buffs. I'm still gonna cry out for them. I do actually have plans for an Amber buff. A fairly elegant buff, if I'm being honest. I think that if you add the passive that Diona has for her C4 to Amber's burst, that alone would probably fix a lot of the problems that Amber has. I think just that simple change where, let's just say that we add this line of text to Amber's Ascension passive. After casting Rain of Fire, or whatever her burst is called, I don't even remember, you gain a 60% attack speed increase to your charge attacks. For, let's just say 12 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever. I feel like if we were to add that one line of text to the current Amber, that would be enough to make her a viable character. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not. But one can dream. The Pyro Archer was rumored to be a DPS. She infuses Pyro into rapid-fire aimed shots. Huh. Interesting. A DPS character with a focus on aim shots. A lot of ideas just came to my head. None of them are good. We'll have to wait and see what she actually ends up being. I'm interested because at the moment I do need a Pyro support. We do not have many Pyro supports. We have Xiangling, Xinyan, and Bennett. Which I guess is a decent number, but none of them do what I want them to do. You need Klee supports. Yeah, Klee supports would be pretty nice. The second we get a Cry official, the game is gonna change. DPS Launcher looks painful for mobile players. Yeah. I feel bad for mobile players when it comes to a lot of the DPS things. I know that there are some people that actually got really good with Ganyu, even when they were in mobile. It still feels painful. And if the Pyro Archer has a focus on aim shots, there's actually a lot of cancels that you can do when it comes to aim shots. In particular, one of the things that you can do is that you can go into the attack chain, then immediately cancel at a certain point in order to go into an aim shot, and then immediately go back into the attack chain. You're basically saving the entire animation set for not only jump canceling, dash canceling, even the recovery time. You're deleting all of that. And the reason why you don't see that is because there's not a single character that can take advantage of it. Just because of how little damage archers do right now. If the Pyro Archer that we do get ends up being better in that regard, that might legitimately be something that we're going to start seeing a lot more. Quick shot cancels. We'll see. We'll see. Definitely interesting. Ganju's not an archer. Yeah, you're correct. She's a bazooka with a cooldown. We'll see what ends up happening. There's a lot of things in the future that we can definitely look forward to. Abyss Changes is definitely the one that's on my top list. Buffs to Amber, one can hope. Shotgun Ganyu. That is something that people do with Barbara, as you mentioned. Barbara is just such a good character from a design perspective. There are just two things that are keeping her down. When I originally looked at Barbara, I gave her an S because I ignored those two facts. If I were to redo that video, taking those two things into account, she would probably go down quite a bit. But Barbara is such a good character. She has massive energy problems, and the fact that she can freeze herself and her allies just kills that character so much. It's painful, because you can see the potential. Her Hydra priming is on par with Xingqiu, and that's not something to make light of, because she's also a healer. And Shining Miracle is an insane ability. And all of her passives are also crazy. If they were to change those two things, Barbara would be S tier, without a doubt. Let's see. The archer's named Yumiya, and her attacks look like fireworks, and she's a hybrid of Hu Tao and Ganyu. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I can see why that would sound scary, if she's a Hu Tao Ganyu hybrid. Might save for her, in all honesty. That might not be a bad idea. Then again, I already have Yanfei. Do I really need another Pyro DPS? I'll take a look at her design, if I'm being honest. I'm pretty much at this point in Genshin, I'm pretty much at the point where I don't actually care about characters anymore. So I can pretty much just meme with whatever I want. People are gonna make Barbara work again after skin 100%. Look, I'm not gonna lie if I don't tell you that I have a video prepared where I'm just gonna send my Yanfei artifacts to Barbara and I'm gonna go one-shot the cryo or the pyro flower with Barbara. That is definitely something that I plan to do in the future. Because DPS Barbara, while it's a meme, it does actually have some merit to it. So I can definitely see people doing that in the future. But yeah, fun times, fun times. Lots of things that we can look forward to in the future. I do hope that MiHoYo listens to the community a little bit more. There's quite a lot of issues that we can see in the game right now, and at the end of everything, we want the game to be fun. We don't really want the game to be as frustrating as Abyss currently is. The game itself, though, I've been having a lot of fun with a lot of the events. I did enjoy the previous event, the Diona event. I actually liked that one quite a lot. I had a lot of fun with that one, just trying to figure out how to do specific things and not having to worry too much about the specific timers that we had. Granted, I guess you can choose that one, so you can choose the timers on that one, so it's not as annoying as the one in Abyss. I enjoyed that one. I actually did enjoy that one a lot, and I would like Abyss to be more similar to it. Alas, one can hope, one can dream. Anywho, the stream has pretty much been going for about an hour and 40 minutes. For me, it's been going on for a bit longer because I had a lot of things to prepare. I do think we're pretty much winding up the stream, so we're probably going to do like 1 or 2 more questions when it comes to quick Q&A, and then we're probably going to finish the stream. So if you have any questions right now's the time. Let's see. Hope MiHoYo will be less stingy with gameplay loot boxes after skin loot boxes. Yeah, that is definitely something that's going to end up happening, isn't it? MiHoYo is probably going to end up adding some form of skin loot box. Probably not my preferred option, if I'm being honest, but if it does mean that they're not going to change the gacha system. I don't even know why I'm hoping. I don't know. There's always this big problem when it comes to monetization where if you do it too much, it just gets too annoying. We already have the entirety of the gacha system, and that's already very unbearable. It's definitely one of the worst gacha systems that we've had in recent history. The only reason why it's been bearable is because we've been able to get a lot of free characters from events. If it were not for the events that MiHoYo has done, I don't think Genshin would have survived the first 6 months. Thoughts on Pale Flame and Tenacity sets. Alright, Pale Flame. Really good set, only for the 2 set bonus. The 4 set bonus takes too much time to gather. By the time that you actually activate the bonus, even with the highest efficiency, the amount of DPS that you are losing from not having the bonus at the offset means that you're not actually increasing your damage by a lot, you're losing a lot of damage. Pale Flame set is not good at the full set because it takes too much time to recover the damage lost from not having the bonus immediately. That is my thoughts on the Pale Flame set. Second piece set, incredibly amazing, combined it with Bloodstain, really good bonuses. 4-piece set, pretty much useless. Even though it does give you the highest DPS, that is only after a timescale, and it takes too much time for you to recover the lost DPS. Do not recommend 4 set for Pale Flame. Simple enough. The only time where it actually gives you a damage bonus is if you manage to keep the bonus active for the entire duration after 1 minute of battle, which is not only highly unlikely, most battles against most enemies are not going to last that long. Not something that I can recommend. When it comes to the other set, the Millenith set, it's weird. It does actually have some benefits when it comes to certain characters, but there's not really that many characters that want to use the Millenith set. One of the things about it is that you need to be able to proc it. So not only do you need an ability that can proc the set, you also need to have a shield user that can generate shields for the set. The attack bonus is pathetic, let's be real. You're not picking this bonus for that one. It is really bad. You're picking it for the shield strength. And when it comes to characters that want that bonus, the only 2 that really come to mind that fit the 2 categories that I've mentioned are Albedo and Zhongli. Diona technically, but Diona's a bit iffy. So when it comes to that, I just don't think I would use the full set for any one character, except maybe Diona. I think Diona is probably the only character that I can see the set being good on. Only because her burst can proc it, and only because the shield strength is actually pretty beneficial, and the extra HP does benefit her healing as well as the shield. Diona is probably the only character where I would recommend it, because in characters like Zhongli and Albedo likes to have the extra damage a lot more. You just get more from having extra geo damage from the other sets, and the HP bonus doesn't benefit Albedo at all. You just get more from other sets. And when it comes to Zhongli, same deal. Are you really going to change off from a different set just to give a shield that's already very unbreakable more strength? I just don't see the benefit on it. It's helpful, and it might become more relevant if we get into fights that are very, very damage heavy, and Zhongli is probably one of the better options in that scenario. The thing about Zhongli, though, is his shield is just so strong already that sacrificing a lot of the other aspects that other artifact sets can give is probably not worth the investment. I just don't see myself switching from something like the Bolite set, or heck, even if you're in the support variant, switching from something like a Noblesse set. I just don't see the value in it. It's too specific. Zhongli and Diona are probably the only 2 that I would consider, and Zhongli only if you're running the support variant, and even then it's kind of debatable whether you'll actually get benefit from it. The support variant for Zhongli just gets so much from artifacts like Noblesse and the Geo artifact that I can't remember off the top of my head for some reason. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the 2 sets. I think Tenacity has the highest potential for the future. Right now, it's just hard to recommend. Again, Diona's probably the best user. Let's see, for the rest, Eula's best artifact set is Pale Flame or Chivalry. Eula's is actually going to be a combination of Pale Flame and Bloodstained. You're going to be using 2 Pale Flame, you're going to be using 2 Bloodstained. The other 2 options are just not that good. Eula's charge attacks are not ideal, and as I mentioned with a Pale Flame set, it takes too long to get the full bonus. Even though the full bonus gives you more DPS, that is only after you have had that bonus for a pretty long time. Because the amount of time that it takes you to activate that bonus, the DPS that you lost during that time will be very difficult to make up for. Very, very difficult. Let's see. 2-piece Millennium set plus 2-piece Witch Flame is better for Tao, or 4-piece Witch set. 4-piece Witch set. The thing about the Millennium set is that even if you're increasing your HP by 20%, that is only giving you so much power. It's not actually increasing that much of your attack power, whereas the Witch set is increasing the multipliers that you get from Vaporize, the multipliers that you get for all of your bonuses, pretty much. If you're running Overload Hu Tao, which is something that I've seen a lot of people do with Fischl, if you're running Vaporize Hu Tao, which is probably the correct option with Xing Cho, you're gonna want to boost that as much as possible. And Witch's set is the one that does that. The Milnus set is a very, very small bonus in comparison to what you get from the other options. That's kind of the problem that I'm getting at right now. The Milnus set is very much centered for support-focused characters, and support-focused characters with very specific ability sets, of which only Diona and Zhongli really fit into. And Zhongli is kind of iffy, just because you get more benefits from building Zhongli differently. Oh, Millith was Fischl. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that one. Fischl can take advantage of the Millith set, but you need to run a different shielder for that scenario. And if you're doing that, then that means that you're not taking advantage of the Thundering Fury set, which is just really good. It's kind of a difficult task. If you can get the specific team, that's actually not that bad. That would probably be more for a C6 Fischl though, where Fischl is the primer and you have a different detonator, probably like Xing Cho. That's where I see it being the most effective. That's actually not a bad idea. I'll definitely have to look into the math for that. Depending on how it works, I'll have to see out of that combination who is the reaction primer and who ends up being the reaction detonator. That's probably going to be the big factor. If the reaction detonator is Fischl, the Thundering Fury set is just going to be better. If the reaction detonator is Xing Cho, you can probably afford the Millith set for Fischl. That could work. That could actually work. That's a pretty good catch. Thank you for that one. But yeah, with that out of the way, I think that's probably going to be the last question for the day. If you enjoyed, pretty much everybody here, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to be trying to do the streams a bit more often. Hopefully, now that I can see that it's actually been working pretty well, and there have been no real issues when it comes to dropping frames, I'm going to see if we can go back to a couple of the streams. I do expect to be doing a couple more streams when it comes to other games. Monday, I'm going to see if I can get the Pokemon stream back up. Might do a bit of Arc. We'll see. We'll see. I'm also planning on doing Subnautica. We'll see which one of those actually sticks. For now, though, thank you very much for watching, and I hope that all of you have a really good day. Portals.